Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today's video, I wanted to show you guys my two newest CGC 9.8 comic book purchases. I know by these two books, you guys are going to be really surprised because I haven't talked about these books on the channel before. I don't think so anyway. If I was thinking about it, and I don't think I have. And so from this purchase, I really just wanted something completely different, to be honest. And you know, there's been a couple times throughout my collecting time here, and you know, really kind of getting back into collecting, I would say in the last 3 years with comic books. And there's been a couple times where I really just wanted something completely different. And this is definitely one of those times. Two CGC 9.8 new books. Really quick though, I want to bring out a book that, in the sort of same theme of this purchase here, that I purchased this book about 1.5 to 2 years ago now. It's Vampire Tales number 6. This is, so Lilith is the daughter of Dracula. This is the first solo Lilith story. So not her first appearance, but kind of her first just solo story with only her. And, you know, purchased this. I wanted something completely different. I kind of have a thing for horror books, an interest in them, even though maybe not as big enough an interest to, you know, buy a lot of them, but certainly a small interest in horror books. The coolest thing about this, Vampire Tales number 6, CGC 9.8 white pages from 1974. Looked on the census this morning, there's still only one CGC 9.8, and this is it. And there's like 9 CGC 9.6s too, so yeah, so this is a one of one in the world. And yeah, just so pumped I bought this book, you know, a couple years ago now. And so, you know, I bought this book because I wanted something completely different. You know, at that time I was buying a lot of Batman and Spider-Man, which I kind of always am, I guess. So yeah, you know what, let's get right into the new books. Yeah, they're really cool. We'll get into sort of some of the reasoning too, why I kind of went down this route too, and kind of look at the CGC census, of course, too, for them. Alright, newest edition here is a Green Lantern 141. And I actually had shared this on Instagram because I just couldn't wait to make a video for it when I got it in. So I snapped a picture really quick and shared it on my Instagram. But Green Lantern number 141 is the first appearance of Omega Man. So I think there's a lot of potential with Omega Man, and you might be more familiar with Omega Man. They had a series in the 80s, and I think, oh, what is it? Omega Man number 3 is the first appearance of Lobo, and that was sort of the most popular issue out of the whole run, I would say. But they did have their own, you know, series in the 80s, and certainly no, you know, movies or TV shows that I know of Omega Man. There could be. I'm not too on top of kind of what's new in some of the shows and everything, but I think there's some potential here to, you know, Omega Man is almost like I sort of compare them as like a Guardians of the Galaxy type of team, but a DC team though. So certainly some potential, I think. Let's look on the CGC census because, yeah, I really kind of drilled down. I wanted this book when I did look on the census, which I like to do. So there was 31 of these in the CGC 9.8 blue label. And this one's a really crisp copy, really nice colors. Not like perfectly centered. If you see, there's a white background. So kind of some of it more sticks out on the bottom here rather than the top. So a little bit of an off-centering. But the one thing I noticed is the white cover is so white. Like the pages are really white. So, you know, when it's just looking really good and it's a really high-grade book, sometimes the centering doesn't matter as much. And this is just a minor off-centering, I would say. But you'd like to see that 31 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. First Omega Man, yeah, I mean, if a movie ever comes out or something big came out with Omega Man and there's only 31 of these, I would imagine the price is probably a little bit more than what I paid for it. We'll get into the price. The 9.8 ratio is 18.7%. So under 20 for kind of a really rare, not a book where there's not a lot of copies graded. You're not going to see the 9.8 ratio really, really low. But still, I think a really good investment grade ratio for how little of these are graded. There was only, I believe, 260 something of them graded. 31 of them are 9.8s. Price I paid for this book. I paid $325. So it was a buy it now, and you know, I kind of drilled down that I wanted some Green Lantern books, and was kind of taking out the price guide and looking at some of the major keys of the 80s, and we'll get into more kind of reasoning on why I really chose Green Lantern and some of the other books I like in the Green Lantern series. But I paid $325 for this book, and there was no completed listings to look up, so such a rare book that there's not much pricing information out there. I didn't do too much pricing information, or pricing research, I should say. It was just one that, you know, when I looked on the census and there was 31, I knew that there wasn't going to be much out there. And, you know, it seemed like a fair price, and it looked like a really high grade, awesome book. And being one of the major keys of this era, you know, this book coming out in 1981. So yeah, I'm just, you know, I love me kind of a rare on the census type of book. And yeah, like I said, I'll get into some more reasoning for why I sort of went down the Green Lantern route. But I'll show you my second book here real quick. Get into this quick, because this is another kind of major key from the era. So it's a Green Lantern 116. Now, this is the first time Guy Gardner becomes a Green Lantern, or you know, uses the kind of Green Lantern ring. The first time he does that. So a more of a key, more of a well-known key, I would say, and more of a not as relatively rare key as Green Lantern 141. So Green Lantern 116, there's 59 of them in the CGC 9.8 in the blue label, as opposed to 31 of these, 59 of these. 9.8 ratio is 25%, so the 9.8 ratio, the lower the better. So a higher 9.8 ratio for this book, lower in for Green Lantern 141, which is a newer book, so that's kind of interesting. And this is a really good example. I'll mention what I paid really quick for this book. $145 for this book, and that was near the lower end of what some completed listings were popping up as. Good shipping to Canada, so I thought, you know, to kind of get the two Green Lantern. I bought them, I believe it was within like 1 or 2 days of each other. So just to kind of get sort of the two main keys from sort of this kind of late Bronze Age era, I guess, of Green Lantern was pretty cool. So I think $145 is kind of a fair price. You know, maybe you get it cheaper if this one pops up for an auction, but there's only 59 out there, so that's not going to happen too much. So yeah, what did I want to go over? Oh yeah, I wanted to mention in the Overstreet price guide, it's a good example of how the CGC census has really sort of, and the CGC market has rewritten sort of what these comics are worth, in a sense, especially when you're looking at really high grade books, because in the Overstreet price guide, this book is worth $32 in the like highest grade. It's like a 9.2 price grade, $32. This book's worth $60. But so this book's worth more in the Overstreet price guide than this book, but this book was $325 and this book was $145. And it just really goes to show you how important that CGC 9.8 ratio is, and how important the CGC census is in general with like really rare books like these, where there's only 31 of these in the CGC 9.8. This is its pretty much obvious comparable from this era. This book came out in 79, this one came out in 81, so they're close enough to compare, certainly. So, yeah, I thought it was just interesting that this is worth less in the Overstreet price guide, but because there's only 31 9.8s, and because the CGC 9.8 ratio is lower than its sort of obvious comparable, it's pretty much double the price. Yeah, $325 for this one I paid, $145 for this one I paid, US dollars. So, yeah, why did I choose to, you know, go the Green Lantern route? Besides, you know, the first thing I mentioned, I wanted something completely different, so I was sort of in that mindset of trying something new, which is great. You know, I've mentioned that Vampire Tales that I got to love that book when I've had success trying something new in the past. Although I do kind of like to really stick to those sort of bread and butter iconic first appearances like I talk about a lot. Another reason, you know, kind of, I I enjoy this the Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds movie that came out in like 2011, I think it was. So I guess like eight or 9 years ago now. Kind of, I think, flopped in theaters, certainly compared to his Deadpool gig. But I enjoyed the movie, I always have, and I thought it was cool when it came out, and, I got the DVD, so I picked this up at Walmart, like a DVD for like $6 one day. Usually I don't buy DVDs, but every now and then I'll grab a superhero one if it's so cheap. Still buying DVDs occasionally. So really enjoyed that movie, which has, that's certainly not the only reason why I bought these books, but the main reason I think is, me, I'm out there on Instagram, I'm, comic book enthusiast, looking at a lot of books on Instagram and on Twitter, and just out there on social media, you see a lot of books. And I always really was attracted to certain eras of Green Lantern. So out of this sort of, let's call it late 70s, early 80s, these are the kind of two books I would recommend out of that era. Some of the other recommendations that I would make for Green Lantern, if you wanted to get into Green Lantern, one thing I'll say really quickly actually is, I wouldn't really recommend these books as a sort of go-to investment grade book if you were really interested in just going after investment grade books, because I wouldn't say Green Lantern is like very iconic. So I wouldn't necessarily, pounding the table recommend these books unless you really like Green Lantern. If you really like Green Lantern, these are great books to get because you'll have a great pride of ownership, and yeah, I know I've really loved having them just for a couple weeks here, but I wouldn't really get into these books if you were just looking to kind of buy some books to amass sort of an iconic investment grade books from the 80s kind of thing. But these are great issues to kind of get into Green Lantern. Especially these ones too. In the raws, these are really cheap. They're very affordable. Obviously, in the CGC 9.8, we're talking crazy details, and there's only 31 of these and 59 of these. Some other Green Lantern books you can look into if you wanted to get into Green Lantern. There's Green Lantern 76, which is the first Green Lantern Green Arrow team up. So it's almost number one Green Lantern Green Arrow with Neil Adams doing the art. So classic artist. That's a book that's pretty hot, and it's an investment grade book. It sells all through the grades in CGC graded comics. That's kind of like the go-to one, but it's kind of, I think it's a 1970s book, so you're getting into kind of the Silver Age there. The other kind of recommendation besides these two from this era sort of is I really like the Mike Grell art from the Green Lantern series, the run that he did, which started at number 90 and went up to 111. There's a lot of really cool, colorful covers in there. And I've really noticed those in just the sort of universe of comics. I noticed that Mike Grell run. Just the colors are great, and there's some really good kind of classic montage covers that are really collectible in there. And so that's the Mike Grell Green Lantern run is another one I'd recommend looking at. And in the raw, they're very cheap, and even in the 9.8s, they're not that much. And I'm super tempted by some of the ones I'm seeing in the 9.8 during that run. And the other one I would say is one I'm kind of still sort of hunting is 195, Green Lantern 195. It's Guy Gardner officially becomes a Green Lantern with a really cool kind of white toned green cover, but it's like mostly white. Kind of on the lookout for that one as maybe another one to buy, but I think for these books, I don't think I'm going to be adding really any more. Maybe that one, the Green Lantern 195, because like I said, I just wanted something different. I do recommend normally to just, stick to really iconic books. Like for me, that's like Spider-Man, Batman, Star Wars, Hulk, X-Men, Wolverine, Avengers now. I really, mostly recommend to stick to those iconic characters. And that's what I normally do with my collecting. But every now and then, I think it's great to try something different. And that's kind of what I wanted to do here. But again, I'll probably, maybe one more 9.8, that Green Lantern 195 looks pretty cool. And it's only around $100 in the blue label, I believe. So maybe I will add that one. But yeah, just wanted a little spice of something different, I think, in my collection. And I think I totally nailed it. I think I love books, like I love Batman books for the same reason, where on the census in the 9.8, sometimes there's like 30 or 40 of a pretty big key issue. Like a good example of that is Detective 523. Yeah, I purchased that one. That's a very similar book to this, I would say, in just the sort of ilk of books. It's kind of a bit of a, it's a main key issue, but not a well-known key issue, so almost a secondary key issue. But in the CGC 9.8, Detective 523, there's only 30-something of those. And yeah, Green Lantern 141, only 31 in the CGC 9.8. First appearance of Omega Men. Yeah, I think that's got a lot of potential. I never recommend to buy books because like the movie's coming out. But and I haven't heard anything that there's like going to be an Omega Men movie or anything like that, so I didn't buy it for that. But I think I could see some DC movies being made of Omega Men that would be similar to the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I think that could work really good. If DC kind of wanted to bring in another team or something like that, besides certainly the Justice League and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, you know what? I think I kind of got through everything. Yeah, I wanted something different. I think I got it. And, really always was attracted to the Green Lantern art, so I think just going after a couple great keys in the Green Lantern kind of universe was a really good choice for me to get something different in the collection. But I think after this I'll probably going back to hunting kind of Spidey and Batman and sort of my go-to want list issues, I guess you could say. All right, really glad I could share these books with you guys. If you haven't already, I'd invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell, get all our latest notifications, and add me on Instagram too. I got all the links in the description below for all that. But thanks so much for watching. Just loving the colors and the covers and the pride of ownership of having these Green Lantern books for a couple days here. So yeah, really glad I could make a video, and I would recommend out there to try something different in your comic book collection. It doesn't have to be like a full run of something or just a book or two of something different. I think every now and then is pretty awesome. You get, I think, a great pride of ownership from something new and different that you wouldn't normally buy, probably. All right, enough of me blabbering on. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you on the next one.